Welcome back, troglodytes. Today we are going to see if we can catch ourselves a rare beast, the Rhino Les Paul. Look, there's a female specimen now. You can tell she's a female by her smooth skin and shiny chrome hardware. But careful now, she looks like a fighter. Let's see if we can catch her. Alright! Welcome back, troglodytes, to the Trogly's Guitar Show. I've wrangled us up a Rhino here. This is the limited edition 2017 Gibson Modern Les Paul Axcess Custom in the Rhino Gray finish. Now, I've mentioned this model in a few episodes before because it has a very interesting feature to it besides the Les Paul Axcess attributes. And it lies at the back of the headstock, the Rhino horn, also known as the Apex head carve. The claim to fame for this model is it is the first one that Gibson experimented bringing back a volute to the back of the headstock. Now, if you think this volute looks familiar, it's similar in style to what Martin uses on their guitars. You can see this side-by-side comparison here. I think the Gibson one, it looks a little bit more stylish, because the Martin one, to me, somebody who hasn't been looking at them for years, it just seems so intrusive. It's like a giant arrowhead, whereas this one's more like a bayonet. However, the Martin one definitely looks like it might be more protective. So they designed this special Rhino finish specifically for this series of guitars, and it kind of proved to be a test run because Gibson is now using these on many custom shop guitars. The only other guitars that I've had that had this is the Modern Flying V's. So when the opportunity came up to purchase one of these to share with everyone, I had to go for it because I think this finish is awesome, and this guitar really impressed me. It was one of two guitars I opened that day. The other one was this one, and as you can see, it's quite a stunning guitar. But despite this one being more plain, there's just so much to go over this very interesting guitar. So let's dive into this. Released in 2017, these were offered in two different finishes. There was a satin finish like this one with chrome hardware. And what satin means is it's kind of a matted finish. It's not glossy. It's nice and smooth. And then there was a gloss version introduced that had gold hardware. Now personally, I think those gloss ones look amazing in the stock photos, but gold and gray, I'm not a big fan of that hardware combination, so I am very happy that I was able to get this version. These originally retailed at $5,099. The specs of these are very similar to a regular Les Paul Custom. You have a maple top with a mahogany back, with a mahogany neck and a Richlite fretboard, but the mahogany body, it's a little bit different here. It's weight relieved, so that means you have the 9-hole weight relief. It has a comfort carve right here with the lack of binding on the back. And you have what they consider the Axcess heel joint right here, which makes this guitar so easy to play in the higher registers because you no longer have that pointy heel joint. These are historic spec guitars, meaning you have an ABR1 bridge and a long neck tenon with thin binding in the cutaway. You also have a lightweight aluminum tailpiece, and it is all hand-wired electronics. And as a fun little bonus here, you have coil splits through the tone controls. The pickup choices for this lineup of instruments was really interesting. If you're familiar with Gibson pickups at all, you know the tried and true pairs. You get the 490R paired with the 498T, and you get the 496R paired with the 500T. This one threw those perfect matches out the window and mixed those. So you now have a 496R rhythm pickup and a 498T in the bridge. So what that means is you have a hot ceramic pickup in the neck paired with a hot Alnico pickup in the bridge. So I thought that was really fascinating because you don't normally find that combination paired in Gibson guitars. Now, if ohm readings mean anything to you, the neck pickup reads 8.34. When it's split, it's 4.18. And the bridge is a hot 13.6. And when split, it gets cut all the way down to 3.47. The Gibson website, they advertise this as a slim C neck profile. I heavily disagree with that. Neck measurements at the first fret is 0.875 inches. And then as you move up to the 12th fret, it becomes a nice almost 1 inch. So to me, that's a pretty chunky C neck profile, not quite as thin as I thought it was going to be. I almost think with a guitar like this, with all that nice upper fret access, I would probably like the neck to be pencil thin, kind of like an M3. Because then I feel this guitar would be even more modernized. So with the weight relieved body, it is also very slightly thinner than a regular Les Paul Custom. A regular one is 1 7/8 inches, and this one I got 7/32 of an inch shorter. So almost a 1/4 inch. So it's not a lot, but it's enough to notice that there is a difference, especially with the binding missing. But with all the contouring, the slightly thinner body, this particular example weighs 7 pounds 12.8 ounces. So that's a very manageable weight. Now, if you're not a big fan of this finish, don't worry, there were actually a few other runs of colors as well. You can find one with these exact same specs in a gloss wine red and a gloss black. Or, if you want to go the more traditional Les Paul Axcess route, they do have Floyd Rose examples in an olive drab green and black finish, as well as a Les Paul standard in a nice cherry sunburst flame top. As far as improvements that I wish Gibson would have made, I feel a blank truss rod cover is a little bit inappropriate on this model. I feel it should either say Les Paul Custom or at least have like a rhino on it or something, because this is the rhinoceros guitar. For being a guitar that you pay $5,000 for, I feel like it should have came with locking Grovers, especially considering it's called the modern Les Paul. It should have the modern day tuners on it. But other than that, this guitar, it is beautiful. I love the non-traditional specs of it. It is incredibly comfortable to play, and it really kind of reminds me of a custom shop Les Paul Custom Light. Now, the body is not quite as thin, but you have some of those features like the cutaway here. You get a better edition of the Axcess heel joint, but that's kind of like the closest thing you could compare this to. But just so we can get the full idea of how much different this guitar is, let's compare it to another custom. In my hand here, I now have a 1981 Les Paul Custom. Obviously, the Gibson logos will be different since we're in different time periods, but it'll serve for our purpose here. Now, the vintage guitar, you can see it's a gloss finish. You see how it's shiny? This is what is interesting on the Satin version. Usually they'll still gloss the headstock and you'll have this weird mix match going on, but the face of the headstock is also satin. Both of them have the pearl block inlays. This one has ebony, this one's rich light, but that's just kind of what a modern day Les Paul Custom has versus an older one. But here you can see the differences in the gloss versus the satin finish. Now I'll tell you, this one is about 4 pounds heavier than this guitar, so I could really feel it in my arm in comparison here. But the layout of the guitar is the same. You are missing a pickguard for this one. But here's what I really want to show, the body thickness. You can see this one is a little bit thicker, and you have back binding, whereas this one doesn't. But look at the difference in the heel joint. That's what I really want to show here. You can see on this one, you've got this little pointy bit, and that can kind of be uncomfortable to play higher up on the Les Paul. So that's kind of what the Axcess heel joint is doing for these instruments, is it makes it more comfortable to play in the upper registers. Now, that doesn't mean it's impossible to play a Les Paul for a solo. I mean, people have been doing it for years. This just makes it more comfortable. Now we'll take a look at the back side of these instruments. Here's where you can see, the lack of the binding once again, and you get this tummy cut. It really is just such an excellent playing guitar. It's a modern version of a Les Paul, so it's not going to be for everyone. Some people might look at this and turn up their rhinoceros hating noses, but from a guitar reviewer's standpoint, I love it. This thing is awesome. I love it from a playing standpoint, but I also love the tradition of these models. So overall, I am very happy with my experience of getting to try this instrument. I was surprised by some of the features that I ended up finding on this, but I dig its quirkiness. I like the Rhino Les Paul. So now that we know a little bit more about this rhinoceros, let's go ahead and hear how it sounds. Now that we know how this instrument sounds, let's go ahead and review its condition. Being a 2017 model, there's not a lot to go over on this guitar. I will tell you I had to re-import this guy from Japan, so he's been hanging out over there since birth. And usually Japan gets all the really good guitars, and this definitely is an excellent player. So we've got some light scratches on the headstock. The matte finish will definitely show those a little bit more prominently, but nothing too bad to go over. Truss rod works just fine. Plenty of adjustment room yet. The frets, they show very minor wear. Hardly any at all, but just enough to see that it was played. The Richlight fretboard on this one looks great. I love these inlays. Take a look at these pearl block inlays. Usually they don't look this good. Typically they're rather plain, but this one, it's got choice inlays. That's all I've got to say. A lot of nice figuring in them, and I love that feature. Face of the guitar here. The matte finish will definitely show picking scratches a lot more, so I'll try to get it in the light here so you can see them. So this is not a mint condition collectible. I mean, if you're looking to collect one of these, I mean, it's close enough, but I mean, if you're a finicky collector, don't get this one. But again, you have the 496R in the neck and the 498T in the bridge. Long neck tenon with ABR1 bridge drilled directly into the guitar with a lightweight aluminum tailpiece. We have black speed knobs. Once again, your tones act as a coil split option for each of these pickups as well. Back at the headstock, serial number Custom Shop 701654. You have the Apex Rhino head carve here, which I think this will definitely be a historically significant model if Gibson continues to use this. There is a very tiny little ding up here. It's kind of hard to even see it, but I do want you to be aware of it. So just minor edge wear along the headstock. You can see your Gibson Custom decal there, as well as your neck. You've got some minor marks on your neck from playing. It's really kind of hard to show you guys all this stuff. It doesn't show up in the camera as well as the gloss finish. Back of the guitar, similar story as the rest. You've got some light marks and light nicks and dings, but overall, I mean, this thing is definitely in a very clean condition. Take a look at the sides here. You can see that Axcess heel joint. So not a lot to go over on this one. It's just such a fantastic playing guitar. I am really grateful for the opportunity to get to check one of these things out, because I've always been curious, but you may find yourself asking, who wants a Rhino Les Paul? I think the correct answer is who doesn't want a Rhino Les Paul? This guitar isn't too old, but it does glow a little bit here. So we will take a quick look under Blacklight. Everything looks good on the top. Move along to our sides here. Definitely nothing to worry about. Back is also looking good. I'm not really seeing any areas of major finish wear. And that's the thing with this matte finish, it'll eventually turn glossy on you. So it'll eventually be gloss, and if you would rather it be gloss right now, all you have to do is give it a really nice polishing job. And as always, modern day headstocks, they must use a different type of binding because they always glow crazily like that, whereas the body binding does not. This instrument comes in its original Lifton reissue case here. This is the less historically accurate but more protective version. You've just got some light handling marks and storage wear on this one, nothing too major. But 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5th back latch here. And the interior is a pink color, which I don't know if that really matches a Rhino, a pretty pink Rhino in a tutu or something. I think it would have been cool if they would have done like a limited edition black and gray version of the Lifton case for these. Inside the case also sleeps most of the original case candy, including your warranty pamphlet. This is your owner's manual. As you can see, it's in Japanese, which shows you this was originally sent to the Japanese market. Some other little case candies and the ever so important certificate of authenticity. If you think you might be interested in being the next owner of this modern day Rhino Les Paul Custom, feel free to check out that link in the description that will take you to the Reverb for sale ad. Thank you, Troglodytes, for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.